Multiplying decimals by decimals, Chapter 3, Lesson 2, Part 2. Okay, multiplying decimals by decimals, we have two methods here. The first one would be to convert our decimals to fractions and then back again to a decimal. So in this example, we have 0.6 times 0.7. 6 and 7 are both in the tenths place. So that means 0.6 is equal to 6 tenths and 7 tenths. So now we can just multiply straight across. 6 times 7 is where the 42 comes from. And 10 times 10 is where 100 comes from. So now I need to put it back into decimal form. And because my denominator is 100, I know the last digit of 42. So the 2 has to be in the hundredths place. So this 2 here is in the hundredths place. And then the 4, of course, is in front of it. And that's where the decimal goes. The other method is just multiplication with decimal replacement, like we did in the last lesson. So instead of 0.6 times 0.7, you're just going to ignore the decimals to start and do 6 times 7 and get 42. And now we're going to put our decimal back in. So in 0.6, I have one decimal place. And in 0.7, I have one decimal place, which equals a total of 2 decimal places. So I started at the back and moved my decimal 2 places to the left. I got 0.42. This is the method I recommend the most just because I think it's quicker. And once you get larger numbers, it's a little bit easier to not have to convert. So let's try the example with 0.8 times 0.9. First, we can do method 1 of fractions. The 8 is in the tenths place, and so is the 9. So that means they're both over 10. 8 tenths and 9 tenths. So now I'm going to multiply across and get 72 over 100. We don't want to simplify here because, again, I know that since I'm over 100, my 2 is going to go in the hundredths place, and the 7's in front of it. And again, that's the hundredths place, so I know the 7's in the tenths place, and my decimal goes before that. Or I can just do regular multiplication. 8 times 9 is 72. And so now in here I have one decimal place in 0.8 plus the one decimal place in 0.9. So in my answer, I need to have 2 decimal places. So I start at the back, go 1, 2. My decimal's in front of my 7. And again, if I don't have a non-zero digit in the ones place, I want to put a 0 there for good measure. So number 8, I have 7 tenths times 4 tenths. So I'm just going to do the regular multiplication way. Seven times 4, and I get 28. So in here I have one decimal, and here I have one decimal. So that means I need 2 total. So I'm going to go 1, 2. My answer would be 0.28. Why don't you try number 9, pause, and come back and check your answer. So 0.48 would be my answer for 0.6 times 0.8. So when I'm dealing with larger numbers, I'm still going to continue doing regular multiplication. So even if I have a digit that's not a 0 in the ones place, I'm still going to take out the decimals and do regular multiplication. So 8.2, when I take out the decimal, would look like 82 times 7. So that would 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 1 is 57. So now here I have one decimal and one decimal here. So that's a total of 2 decimal places. So I have 5.74 because I need 2 digits after my decimal. Same thing in number 11, 5.7 times 2.1. I'm going to ignore my decimals and just do 57 times 21. 7 times 1 is 7, of course. 1 times 5 is 5. I'm going to drop a 0 because I'm multiplying 20 times 7. Okay, so I add together and I'll get 1,197. And again, I have one decimal place here and another one here, so that gives me a total of 2 decimal places. So I'm going to make sure I have 2 decimal places here in my answer. So 11.97. Why don't you give number 12 and 13 a try and hit pause and come back and check your answers. So I hope you got the same answers as I did, 1.95 for number 12 and 20.54 for number 13. So here in numbers 14 through 16, we have some more examples of a decimal times a decimal, but now we're dealing with digits in the hundreds place. Nothing is different. Our decimal is just going to be in 3 place values for this example. So first we're going to do 39 times 47. 9 times 7 is 63. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 6 is 27. Okay, now I'm doing 40 times 9, so I drop my 0. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 13 is 15. I add those together. Okay, so I get 1,833. So now they made a typo here. In this one I have 2 decimal places. This one I have 1 decimal place. So that makes a total of 3 decimal places. So I have 1, 2, 3. So 1.833 is my answer. Again, we're just doing multiplication and popping that decimal number back in there. So give 15 and 16 a try while I'm pause and come back and check your work against mine. Okay, so for number 15, you should have got 2.745. And for number 16, you should have got 0.2170. And you could actually exclude that last 0 and just have 0.217 in your answer. And that's it. Just make sure you're counting how many digits are after all the decimals total when multiplying and putting your decimal back in that many of places.